Welcome to ToyWorks. What you see here is Combiner Wars Optimus Prime from the 2015 Combiner Wars toy line that feature Optimus Prime as a core torso robot. Today we're going to talk about some of the combining features of Optimus Prime, not just this one, but from other lines like, say, Energon, Transformers Energon. We're going to talk about this guy today because he came out back in 2015 and the engineering has changed substantially since. We're going to talk about the robot, the core robot itself, the alt mode, and lastly, we're going to combine him with the limb bots that you can get for this version of Optimus Prime. Now, we all know that Optimus Prime is red. Your typical G1 Optimus Prime began as a red semi-trailer. They did something a little different with Optimus Prime in Combiner Wars. They give him two different versions. They had the regular red version and then they had the white version. Now the white version, a lot of people, when they look at him, they think it's Ultra Magnus, but no, canonically, this robot, this toy, is Optimus Prime. A lot of people also know that when you go online, you can see that there are add-on kits by third party to make this toy into Nexus Prime, or Nova Prime, sorry. And Nova Prime is very much a character, a very standalone character on his own that's very different from Optimus Prime, that is distinct in both look and in character. But of course, the root robot, the root toy is the same as Optimus Prime. So we're going to go through his transformation. I'm going to talk a little bit about his alt mode and the weapons that he comes with, and then we'll move on to his combined mode. First, you'll notice that on the first appearance of this toy, like when you first look at it, it's very G1-ish. There's a very 1984 Optimus Prime feel to him. What you also notice right away is that he doesn't have a lot of like details on near the back, right? But all the details are pretty much sculpted on the front of the cab. So I'll give you an example. When you look at the side, you can see there are details molded onto the chimney. There's details molded onto the side where there's that side mirror. You can see the outline of the tractor's door right here. And then you can see the sleeping cabin in the back here with some details molded onto it. What you don't see is there are no fuel tanks, which is something that's very iconic for Optimus Prime in his truck mode. Also, even though the tires are made of plastic, they do try to make it look rubbery. So the sculpting for the tire is really well done. If you look at the front of this cab, you can also see more of that molding that kind of invokes a semi-tractor. And you can see there's like details molded onto the headlight, the front grille, the windshield, and of course the rain cover up here. You look at the side, it's symmetrical, it's identical to the driver's side of the truck. But then when you look at the back, you'll see that the detail is getting a little sparser and you can see more kibble from the robot mode shown in the back here. The truck bed back here is very smooth. It's very sparse in details. But what they do instead of having details molded onto the toy itself, the two guns that this toy comes with, you'll see that from the top, you have engine parts molded onto it. So the guns is supposed to suggest an engine being attached to the back, making this somewhat of like a monster truck modded vehicle. Now when I take them off, and they do go on pretty tight, so you gotta be careful because you do not want to break the handle off. The handles are quite long, so when I show you how long they are, you'll get the idea that these are the handle for the guns. And it's not brittle or it's not delicate per se, but you do want to be careful with it. That goes the same for this gun. Again, you notice that the handle is rather long. And unlike the other the other version of Combiner Wars Optimus Prime, they do not come together like it does, like they do with the other guns. This one, it comes together as the one long rifle, which is reminiscent of Rodimus Prime. Now, let's go into the back a little bit more just to see some of the details. As you can see, there's no embossed details on the back of the truck bed. There's no extra sculpting in the back, but you do notice there's a trailer hitch on the back of this vehicle. There is no official trailer you can buy that would go with this version of Optimus Prime, but there are plenty of third-party trailers that you can get for this toy. So you have a headache rack in the back here that prevents the trailer that he pulls from bumping into the back of the truck. And this one, this piece, later on you'll see that it becomes the waist piece for the super robot. It does have a lot more details molded into it compared to the rest of the back. So now I'm going to move on to actually transforming this truck into Optimus Prime. And again, I have to stress that this toy draws a lot of its inspiration from the G1 toy. You'll see that the chimney is positioned not in the back of the truck, but more like it's kind of like it wrapped around near the side by the other details of the truck, the other parts of the truck. And I'm gonna make it so that when I transform this, you'll see the similarities between the G1 toy and this toy. So let's start off by unhooking the bottom here. There's two tabs that locks the front part of the truck and the arms with the back of the truck, which is also the legs. So once I've uncoupled this, I straighten this out a little bit, and you would hear the clicking of the ratchet in the legs, and they're pretty tight. And the reason why it's tight is when he becomes the core robot for the combiner, this part is very solid. So once I open that up, I will split open the arm just to get them ready so that you can transform them into the larger robot or into the smaller robot, sorry. Then get that out of the way. And once that's done, there's these two panels on the side of the vehicle. You can see the hinge here. Flip them down like that. And then once you have that, flip it up again. Open up the front like that. And then you keep flipping it to the side until you hear the clicking sound. That locks that in place. Now what you want to do now is you want to turn them around, and you can see this part, like the back part where it was all, or the front part where it was all covered up. You can see the fake windshield, which is part of the chest for Optimus Prime. You swing the fender onto the side like so. The grill that you saw in the truck mode is actually part of the elbow joint. So you swing that up like this. You do the same thing on the other side. Swing it up like that. So once you have that, stand up the robot. Straighten out the torso area. And then you straighten out the leg like that. Separate the two halves of the back of the truck to form the legs. And then swing down or swing up the feet that form the hitch of the truck that you saw previously. And last but not least, you see the top panel here? Push down. That will reveal the head. And once you reveal the head, lock it in place like that. And if you want, you can take the gun that I put together earlier. You can either put it together or you can keep them separate. I prefer to keep them together because when you have them together, it not only forms a rather impressive looking weapon, but you can actually make them hold on to the rifle like this. It's a much more dynamic looking battle pose. I find this is a much better mode, a better, I guess, posing, I guess, configuration for the rifle when you have them in robot mode. So I'll take the gun out right now, just so we can talk about the articulation. So very much like the modern Transformers, Optimus Prime completely capitalizes on the joints that he uses for his transformation to be used for his robot mode for his articulation. So as I said before, the grill is also the elbow joint. So you can count the elbow joint as being one point of articulation on each side of his body. And because of the transformation, there's a swivel in his bicep. So that's another point of articulation. So that's 2 on each arm. And of course, there's a shoulder articulation. And you can also swing the arm up this way. So that's 4 points of articulation. So if you double that, his upper body, just for the limbs, has a total of 8 points of articulation. The head turns left and right. It doesn't look up though. Well, it kind of does and it doesn't. It's on a very limited ball joint, but the movement is so slight that I don't know if you want to count that as a point of articulation. So I would just count the side-to-side turn as 1 articulation. So that's 9 in total. And because of the transformation schema, his waist swivels, just like that. So that's another point of articulation, that's 10. And also, because this is part of the transformation, his waist, you can actually tilt him up like this, where he looks up. So you can like put him in these really dynamic poses where he's looking up at, say, Devastator or Omega Supreme. So that's the 11 points of articulation. And then of course, the leg, you're gonna get the hip joint. The hip joint goes forward, backward, goes side to side. And then there's a knee joint. Now the knee joint is a little weird. And it's not actually right at his knee. The knee is right about here. It's a little bit above the mid-thigh area. And the reason why they do that is because this is needed for the super robot mode. And of course, at that point, there's also a swivel in his mid-thigh. So there's 4 points of articulation just at his upper leg alone. And then last but not least, there's no ankle swivel, but there is an ankle pivot because of his transformation. So you can make him go tippy-toe or make him walk normally. So that's like another 8 for both legs. That's another 8 points of articulation. So at the 11 that was mentioned previously, he has a total of 19 points of articulation. Now, why is this important? Because he is a torso robot, you would want to preserve the amount of articulation he would get in his super mode. But at the same time, you don't want him to have too much articulation because joints, as every Transformer collectors know, they get worn out over time. So you get weak. So if he's supposed to support a lot of weight on the top, you don't want those joints to be too excessive and you do not want them to be weak. You also notice that there's a lot of ratcheting. And this is part of the design where you want to keep those joints tight so that when he is in super robot mode, he can support the weight of the other robots that's attached to him. So I brought the other robots that forms the limb of this particular Optimus Prime. If you remember in Combiner Wars, they're all pretty much follow the same scheme, the design scheme as G1 combiners, where each of the robots can form either the leg or the arm of the super robot. In this case, you have Ironhide, Sunstreaker, Mirage, and Proud fulfilling that role. Canonically, they were never combiner robots, but in Combiner Wars, they were given the ability to combine with Optimus Prime to form a super robot. So we're gonna look at Optimus Prime's transformation into the torso, and then once that's done, I'm gonna add these 4 robots, and of course, Rodimus. He forms a chest plate, but he is not an essential part of the super robot, but I'll show you how it works regardless. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure he's in robot mode. Start him out in robot mode, because I find that the easiest part or the easiest step to go from Optimus Prime to the super robot torso. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the head back in like this. Okay. Next, I'm going to straighten out the arms, swing them up just to get them out of the way. And then I'm going to transform the legs into the super robot mode. So what you have to do is you have to swivel this, or sorry, you got to kind of swivel this around and then bring it down like this. And then turn the robot around. Put a waist plate here. you'll notice that the wheels are on the outside. So that's why I had to swivel the legs around. So once you do that, turn the legs on the side like this. Same thing with the other leg for the left leg. And then once you have that, bend the legs at an angle like so. Like that. The reason why this is important is because it will give you the clearance to put the other robots as leg modes when you combine them. And then once you have that, flip the panel up, or sorry, the waist panel up, and then flip the side panel up. And you'll see there are tabs here. And then there's a slot here. You need to fit the slot into the tab like so and lock it in place. That way, when he is in super robot mode, the leg stays in place. And then once that's done, you just flip the waist piece down to form the super robot waist. And once you have that, you have completed the transformation for the lower part of the super robot. So this is what it should look like. Now to the upper part. So you want to make it so that your arms are cleared. That's why I kind of swung it out earlier, just to make sure there's some clearance. You swing it out, you swing it up, and then when you do that, right, make sure that there's enough clearance for you to slot the robot, the chest piece in. Because right here in the arm, you see there's like these slots here. In the slot, that's where these posts goes into. Okay, you'll see that on the bottom of the leg, they have the same configuration, the same feature. So you want to free these up. So what you want to do is you want to swing out the arms like that. The arms now, when you swing out the hands, you'll see the slot right there. Okay, swing this up. Make sure it is in position. Okay. Go like this. Like that. So you basically have to bend the arms back a little bit when you do that. And then when you do that, swing it to the side. Like so. So it locks in place. That way, when you transform it into a super robot, right? This part is aligned. You can see the fist turn upwards because you need a clearance to make sure that the arm bot slides right in. You do the same thing on the other side. So swing this down, turn the arms around, make sure the slot is on the outside, swing it up, and make sure now this tab locks into this. Like so. And make sure that the hand is out of the way, because if it's not out of the way, you cannot fit the limb bots in there. And finally, what you want to do now is to open up the chest. And when you open up the chest, you can see the large super robot head for this Combiner Optimus Prime revealed. Okay, rotate this piece, because when you rotate this piece, you'll see the sculpted I guess representation of the matrix, for lack of a better word, right on the chest of this robot. Okay, so once you have that, this is pretty much the torso form of Optimus Prime in the super robot mode. Now, what I mentioned about Rodimus earlier, you have the option of just leaving them like this, or you can just attach them using these two pegs and these two posts, these two ports underneath the Rodimus, and fit it onto the chest. Okay, like that. So Rodimus becomes a battle armor for Optimus Maximus. I think that's his name. I could be wrong, but from what I remember, that's the name of his super robot mode. So now it's just a matter of connecting the limb bots onto this torso. So Ironhide, I've already configured him so that he is ready to be connected to one of the legs of Optimus Prime. It doesn't really matter which one, really. So you can connect him like this by just sliding it into the slot. So I'm going to see if I can show you how it looks like. So you see how the pig, or that square pig that was on Ironhide before, it's on Pro as well. You just slide it in. There's a spring mechanism that would lock it in place. So that's what you want to do. Okay, so once you have that, do the same thing for Prowl. Take the square pig or the square piece, slide it into this, slide into the slot, and you'll lock it in place. And then if you want, you can bring up the car hood like that, just to give him the extra armor. And then once you have that, stand him up. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna put him like this, so we can kind of see how he looks like. So he's pretty sturdy. Like, it's not gonna come off. He's designed so that when you put him together, everything locks in place. When you move him, it doesn't come off. So as you can see, when I move his legs, everything stays put. So that's it for the legs. We're gonna now move on to the arms. So I have both Sunstreaker and Mirage converted into their arm mode. It's basically the robot mode, but you put their legs together and you put the arms kind of in a configuration where nothing gets in the way. And then you put the posts up by moving their head back. So this post, if you're using them as a leg mode, as a leg robot, you just flip it all the way up. But in this case, you just bend it up 90 degrees and that forms the arm. So I'm gonna put Mirage in first. So remember the slot I was telling you about on his shoulder? So very much like what we did with the legs. You take the pig, put it into the slot like so, and just slide it in. The way that the shoulders form, it's very sturdy. You don't have to worry about it coming off. And then you do the same thing for Sunstreaker. You take this post right here. Oh, Rodimus fell out. And you slide into the slot right here. And then again, it won't come off. I mean, it could come loose, but it won't come off. You don't have to worry about breaking it. See, like that. So there you have it. Stood up Optimus Maximus, and he has articulation like any other robot in this era of Transformers. I'll show you each of the articulation, beginning with the head. So unlike the small robot, this robot, the super robot head, you can turn him left and right. You can actually look up and down like that. So he actually gained a point of meaningful articulation. So that's 2 points. His shoulders, I'll just do one side and then I'll just to get the point across. So his shoulder joint is an actual ratchet joint. You can hear the ratchet working, and it's pretty tight. Like, you can actually pose him in some dynamic action pose without having the arm falling off. And you can also see that the elbow area is actually made up of the robot waist and hip, where now it functions as an elbow. Rather clever. The fist, this is an add-on. It's actually not part of the robot. It's an accessory that you can put onto Sunstreaker when he's in a car mode, or you can use this fist as a gun when you convert it into a weapon for his robot mode. But in this case, right, because it's just attached to Sunstreaker with the pig, you can kind of get an articulation if you want to count that as an articulation, whereas it's really just rotating on a pig connection point. You may also notice there's a port in the fist, and that port is used to carry the weapon of Optimus Prime. So in this case, you can just put the gun on, and it stays on pretty well. You can also pose him when he's in robot mode, so you can put him in some pretty dynamic poses. Same thing with his right arm, which is made of Mirage. He has the same points of articulation, same features, and the same degree of articulation as Sunstreaker. I do have to warn you though, Sunstreaker's arm mode is a little different. His arms are tucked in, whereas Mirage's arms mode, or arms in his arm mode, they're kind of like more or less put together by friction. So he's a little bit more delicate than Sunstreaker's arm mode because of that. But the articulation and the feature is still the same. You can bend him at the waist/elbow joint. You can pivot his wrist at the connection point where the fist goes on to Mirage. And of course, he has a shoulder articulation just like Sunstreaker. You can move him up and down like this. Oops. Rodimus Prime doesn't like to stay on. You can move him out like this slightly. And of course, you can bend his elbow backwards if you need to. So those are his points of articulation. Also 4 points of articulation. So far, that's 10 in total. Now, we're going to move to the lower part of his of this robot. Because of the transformation, you can actually swivel him a little bit, but very much like this small robot, the articulation is only meaningful if you get some parts out of the way. In this case is the waist panel. So you would have to lift him up like this and then swivel him left and right. Now you probably notice something right away. This robot is somewhat disproportionate. He's really stocky, but at the same time, he has really long legs. Now, the reason why that is because for the truck mode, they kind of like, didn't really put a lot of bulk. I'm just gonna take Rodimus out of the way here. Because of like, the lack of the bulk there, they didn't really put a lot of tabbing panels to make this locked in place. So when you do move his legs, right, the panel is free to move without impeding that leg movement. But at the same time, it really takes away some of the bulkiness to this robot. As you can see, if you don't articulate him, he doesn't look too bad. But at the same time, all the Combiner Wars of that era, or all the Combiner War torso robots of that era, he's easily one of the weakest. So that leg articulation I just showed you, that's an extra articulation point. You can kind of move them up and down as well, but because this panel is pegged onto the hip, or the robot thigh, to form the hip, you can't do a lot of like side movement. So that kind of hinders it. You move them up, because of the connection point with prowl, that connection point kind of forms a knee joint. It's not something that I would recommend you using as a regular point of articulation, because it does pop off if you use it too much. But it is actually a point of articulation. And unlike other robots, you don't typically have a swivel at the knee, but this guy has one. And very much like the hands on Sunstreaker and Mirage, you can somewhat pose the feet that's attached to prowl by the pig point, but I wouldn't recommend it because that would also come out quite easily. So that's another 4 point of articulation. 1, 2, 3, 4. So all in all, you have 17 points of articulation for the entire robot. And is he stable? Is he prone to falling apart? Honestly, not really, because once you have everything snapped in place, he's pretty stable. He doesn't really move around a lot. He may not be the best looking robot, may not be the best looking combiner, but in terms of being stable and having articulation, he's actually pretty good. My only complaint is Rodimus doesn't seem to want to stay on the chest, even though that's his function. Like, he is supposed to be a chest armor, but it doesn't look like he wants to stay on. I don't know why that is. It could be just my copy of this robot. It could be the problem with the pigs, but if it stays on, it stays on. If it doesn't, it's not going to affect the robot overall. As you can see, it doesn't really do too much. Yeah. So now we're going to move on to the next combiner. And we're going to move back a little, go back in time a little bit. We're going to go into the Energon era, back in the late 2000s.
Okay, we're doing Energon. So this is Wingsaber, and this is Optimus Prime. My colors are different because this is the Year of the Snake version, and this is the regular version. I like the Year of the Snake one better because of its more G1 colors. we're going to combine the two together, which is very simple, very easy. It does have parts forming, just like the last one you guys saw. So we're going to start with Optimus here first. I believe that's going to pull out his arms, pop up his head, open up this, and he gets a battle helmet for the combiner. Looks like that. Switch, pull out his legs, and you're going to want to keep his legs like this, so that way it's easier to combine. Backpack, you simply just fold, and it kind of just clips into place. And that's Optimus Prime for right now. Wingsaber. Wingsaber is one of the easiest ones. So what you're going to do is literally split them in two. On peg, from here, that peg goes into that slot there. Pull down the back, take the cannon, and then you pull here to pull it off. It does take a little bit of force sometimes. Oh, forgot to follow down the landing gear. And you simply just pull. Once again. So you're going to want his limbs like this. Because this becomes his arm, you simply just rotate. And same with the other one. Simply just rotate, and you make sure these flaps are up too, because it forms the rest of the hand or forearm. So to combine Optimus, it's very simple, very easy. Take this. I'm a little bit high. Yeah. So the reason why I combine them like this is because I really like the red on top, blue on the bottom. It reminds me of G1. So that's why I have it like this. I do have a crystal, a combination crystal. I had to pull it off of something else because the Year of the Snake one does not come with this crystal here. Also, there should be one on my version of Wingsaber, but because I got it used, there is no combination crystal for him. And I will show you the other mode, which I don't like as much, but we will do it. Okay, so when it comes to the limb mode, make sure you take out Wingsaber's hand, and then you have to twist this part here. If you don't twist this, there will be no clearance to get it to sit properly. And then you simply just bend that up. Most people don't like this because of the hand just stays there. There is nowhere to put it. And that's a leg. We'll do the same thing on the other side. This one, so you fold down this part here. Sorry, you fold it to there. You open up that part, pull the fist. It's like the other side. Then you collapse this part here twist. Don't forget to twist this part, or else you will not have enough clearance to put that in there. And then you fold up the hand and the forearm together. And that's that. So that's both legs. You're gonna fall. And another reason why I like these as the feet, because they're big, wide. Sorry, they're wide compared to these ones. Like, so that's why I like using these legs also. Not because it looks G1, and because it's also a thicker base for it to stand on. So the limb, simply unfold here, unfold again, straighten it out, twist. And that will be the shoulder for him. No, I got that wrong, sorry. So this is the way it's supposed to be. And you fold out the hand. So you rotate it out more like this. Sorry. And then the cannon gets rotated. So that is the hand for the left side when it's facing out. And I forgot, gotta twist that back again. And then weapon, if you want to have it out. You want to have it out, that is how the cannon is supposed to be placed. We'll do the same thing on this side. So come out, Autobot symbol faces out, twist, and you twist again all the way. You open up the hand, and then the cannon is there. So that's both limbs for the other mode, as I think they called it jet mode on the show. And you still leave Optimus the way he was. So Optimus will be still like this. And you simply just plug in the legs once again. With this one, he does get a wider stance, as you can tell. It's all due to the thrusters on the back of him. And then the jet mode hangs out on the sides. Okay, we're going to put the arms on now. Simply just clip them in. And done. So this is the flight mode. Don't like this mode compared to the other one. The other one also sits better too, I find. Jet mode, as I was saying before, you got the two cannons. He only used this mode a few times. He said he used the other mode. One was during a race for the Cyber Cup, and he decided to bombard the contestants, which was really odd for Optimus Prime to do. He wasn't trying to hurt them, he was just adding extra flair to the race.
Thank you, Gafool. That was a great review of Energon Optimus Prime. So we can see two generations of Optimus Prime combining with other robots to become a super robot. This has been a tradition since G1. Best example is when Optimus Prime, or at the time people would call him Power Master Optimus Prime, the Japanese version would would have a robot named Ginrai that becomes Super Ginrai, and then Super Ginrai combines with God Bomber to become the first Optimus Prime that would combine with another Transformer. That tradition got carried through to our Robots in Disguise 2001, where Optimus Prime would combine with Ultra Magnus to become Omega Prime. And of course, since then, a lot of the subsequent Optimus Prime toys have that feature where they combine Optimus Prime to at least one other robot. For example, Armada Optimus Prime can become a super robot, very much like G1 Power Master Optimus Prime or Ginrai, to become a super robot where he combines with his trailer. Now, if you take his trailer apart, you can combine Armada Jetfire with Optimus Prime to become another super mode for Optimus Prime. And additionally, Overload, thank you. Overload would also become a weapon for the Super Optimus Prime mode to become like a really, really powerful, powered up Optimus Prime. Of course, we have Energon, where Optimus Prime comes with his drones for him to become a super robot. But as you can see in this toy, he combines with Wingsaber to become another super robot. In this case, Wingsaber has several configurations where he can actually have two different modes. He can have the jet mode or the fight mode. As you can see, both robots look very robust. They look very big, and this is because in Japanese anime, a lot of the times the protagonist is smaller than the antagonist, like the main enemy. It's sort of like a David and Goliath dynamic, where the good guy is an underdog until he gets the power up to fight the much more powerful enemy. We will talk about Armada Optimus Prime in a future video, but in our immediate videos, we'll explore the idea of Cybertron Optimus Prime, where he does combine with another robot that would give him an even more powerful mode. There is a theme going on where Optimus Prime does combine with other Transformers to become more powerful, but this is because Optimus Prime is seen as the main hero in the Autobot lore, or in the Transformer Autobot lore. So if you like what you see here today, hit subscribe and continue to follow our videos. We will have more videos on the Transformer histories and the toy. See you next time.